Solar Ash was developed by Heart Machine and released in late 2021, and I decided to start playing it on a whim despite there being tons of really hyped up releases recently. I remember it being at a show for PlayStation 5, and it was the only game that really made me pay attention, mostly because of how smooth it looked as well as the dreamlike feeling I got from the trailers. I didn't know what to expect aside from the beautiful movement, but I was not disappointed. The mechanics are pretty basic, and you'll be using them the entire game. You have a basic run, a state of skating, which is gliding across the ground, a brief time stop function in order to grapple onto certain objects, a boost in order to change directions and increase movement instantly, climbing, which is automatically done, rail grinding, and a quick slash attack. The liquid-like animations greatly assist the feeling of butter-smooth movement, especially with the decision to give the character flowing clothes and hair. The game uses these mechanics to great effect through increasing challenges and greater exploration throughout it. The core gameplay revolves around being pushed into a new area, exploring and solving objectives that are mostly in the form of courses. Occasionally, I got stuck on knowing what to do, but I don't think that's a bad thing. The game doesn't explain how to do anything aside from the first course or two, and I think that is lovely. I'm calling these courses, but really they don't have a label, and they just exist out in the world for you to find and complete. It usually won't be too long before you find them all either, because you get a limited amount of every location to explore, which provides a feeling of freedom but doesn't overwhelm the player. I really enjoy the hands-off approach in games that just tells you to go, and they do that wonderfully with the mechanics. What they weren't super hands-off about though was the story, or rather the method of telling the story. I feel really bad for describing it this way because they obviously loved the world they created and wanted to attach some meaning and stories behind it through dialogue entries, but I just wasn't interested. The movement was so fun that whenever I wasn't moving to talk to somebody, my eyes kind of glazed over. So if you have the patience to listen, it's got voice acting, and it's actually quite nice. I was really worried whenever I heard the main character start talking to herself while finding secrets. I thought, oh my god, the whole game is going to be like this. But no, it wasn't grating, not in the least. It didn't have the cliche delivery you'd expect out of Marvel movies.
A Void Runner cache. Please tell me the logs are intact.
Despite my gripes with the story, with how much dialogue there was, there is a nice theme that characterizes the fractured worlds quite well, so if you do pay attention, I don't think you'll go unrewarded. So what actually is the story? You are Ray. Your aim is to save yours and others' dying worlds from a cataclysmic event by destroying the giant beings affecting the collapsing worlds. That's it, it's pretty plain and simple. The game is accompanied by pretty peaceful music most of the time, and you're listening to it now, perfect for traversing these gorgeous worlds created with a focus on color and contrast. The moment-to-moment gameplay is phenomenal. The courses I mentioned, they are set up in such a way that you need to complete them quickly in order to clear them. They can usually be done in under a minute as well, so if you fail, you can do it right away. You don't need to reload a level. Just go to the beginning and start again. The flow of completing these sections feels so satisfying and is exactly what you'd expect out of a game focused on movement. When you die, you're brought back to the previous checkpoint pretty quickly. The enemies can function as something to quickly slash at to divert your attention away slightly, or to grapple onto for a quicker route. I really like this enemy style rather than having to stop and spin dash to break the flow. There's also little to no cinematics preventing you from getting right back into the game except for a larger event, something like the destruction of a giant. Also, I'm sorry, I have no idea what they're called. I've just been calling them giants this whole time. Speaking of those guys, they're really fun. They're really bosses, but there's no health bar, and that's not how the game works. In order to complete one, you need to systematically hit its weak points like it's one of those several courses scattered throughout the game. These are usually the hardest to complete in any area that they populate. If you fail to beat a phase in one go, it'll reset and you'll have to go back to the beginning and do it all over again. I love these encounters, and they appropriately have more intense music to accompany it. I think Solar Ash has an incredibly elegant system that somehow manages to have amazing encounters without compromising on what the game does best, which is flow of movement. It is a beautiful, relaxing, and fairly short game that begs to be played again if you value the graceful flow that it manages to achieve. The asking price is a bit steep at $40. I'd wait for a sale or do what I did and play it on Game Pass. I don't think I've ever heard this game talked about, and I think that's a shame because it's just really fun. Anyway, I'm Frogwater. Thanks for your time, and here's some funnies from my time playing. Later.
Let's eat hookers and kill them.
Let me put it in a way you might understand. I don't know.
I don't know. Dude, imagine if like the power grid turned off. Like, dude, what would you do?
What
would you do if like the internet just turned off right now? Like, what would you do?
If there was no more internet, I'd probably start reading.
Yeah, but like, what would you do if like there was no more?
What, like
internet?
about it?
And like, dude, and like I just
Wouldn't you be mad? Wouldn't you do something about it?
What would you do? What the fuck would you do, man? if the internet turned off
What
right
would
now?
you do? What would you do, huh?
What the fuck would you do? Answer me, man. What would you do?
What would you do about it?
What
If
would
there was no more internet forever and it cut me off mid-sentence, what would you be doing with your life?
Like, what if right now, like, the internet just turned off right? Like, what would you do about it? How would you fix the situation?
Well, I think it's more interesting.
What would you do? Like, that's
Yeah,
more
what would you do?
What would you do?
What would you? How would you address the situation if the internet turned off right
Like,
now?
what if you were
Talking
like
to
an
me like
ant?
I'm the
What if you
fucking
were like
president.
what if you were like an ant with like a stick with a little bag on it?
What would you be doing if you was like a little ant with a stick and you start walking around outside? Like,
The fuck? What would you do? What would you do, honestly?
I would start reading.
I'll pick up a good book, maybe.
Yeah,
I'd like
right?
to read or something. Yeah, that's probably like the normal option.
I mean, I can't do it. I can't control it.
I'll pick up like a fucking book, dude.
Patrick could probably control it. He would probably do something about it, but I don't
I
know
would
if I
do
could do anything about it. Yeah, I've never read Harry Potter. I can finally read this book everybody's talking
We're not
about.
the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm solving solutions, you're creating new problems. Dude, I got fucking ideas contemplating.
They're swashing.
I have theories, okay?
I can
like,
feel
have
I can feel them
theories.
pulsing in my mind, jumping rope with my brain folds.
The worms are squirting
Worms.
creases.
The worms, they pulse.
What are you gonna do about the internet being out?
Nothing. I don't care.
Dave is Sigma. He's a snoozer. He's not alpha. He's snoozer.
He's fucking snoozing.
He's got a little nightgown and a cap on, and he's got a little bubble coming out of his nose. He's a snoozer.
Snoozer male.
Like, what's a book?
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Ooh, words.
It's
I'm stroking my
entertainment.
shit.
You don't even
I'm
know how to
stroking my
read.
shit without my fucking
Like,
internet.
I
Dave
do that
has
all
a
the time.
brain, dude. He can imagine an apple.
He
Yeah.
can imagine an
I
apple.
don't need to read the word apple. I can just imagine it.
I can imagine anything.
I'm really glad Dave answered the question. He was the first person to have a legitimate answer.
You just don't like my answer.
Oh God, they told you what the last puzzle was, bro.
Why is there an engine called Cummins?
Bro, because it's coming.
It's one of the best things you've ever said.